Join us for a captivating new series where Lawin sits down with the trailblazers of the music and entertainment world. Discover the stories behind the faces and voices that shape our culture and community.
We will bring you exclusive interviews with industry legends and rising stars. Behind the scenes insights and get a peek into the creative processes and personal journeys. Artists and performers and their upcoming shows and events.
Stay tuned for more updates and sneak peeks. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel.
In a world cluttered with information, where truth is power, Lawin Weekly News stands apart.
We delve deeper, uncover facts, and bring stories to light. From political showdowns and economic triumphs to the pulse of the street and the heart of the community.
We capture the moments that define us, stories that challenge, inspire, and transform.
Tune in live Sundays 8 a.m. Central Standard Time and Sundays 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Lawin Media Network.
Bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
Business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawin Media Network.
The following program is produced by Lawin Media Network. The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the individuals appearing on the show and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Lawin Media Network, its affiliates, sponsors, or partners. The content provided in this program is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. Lawin Media Network does not guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or timeliness of the information.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, everyone. Hello, hello. How are you, Miss Cora?
I'm great. How are you, Dr. Claire? And good evening, Pilipinas.
Yes,
Good
and good
morning,
morning.
Houston.
Yes, Central
Magandang
Standard
umaga
Time.
sa
Good
inyo lahat.
morning. I know. Welcome again to another live Chikahan right here at Teacher Talk, live Chikahan with
Teacher Cora?
and Dr. Claire. This is, can you believe it? This is episode 9. Oh my goodness.
Yes, we're
And it's a
almost
very, very
over.
exciting episode because we have some amazing guests. Of course, before we forget, we would like to, thank everyone who's watching us live through Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We would also like to thank, of course, our wonderful podcast director, Christian Toledo. Always, always, he's doing
Thank you,
amazing things
Christian.
and
Thank you.
working behind the scene. And of course, our producer, Lawin Media, and special acknowledgement to attorney Eileen Ligot Dizon. Always, it is a pleasure, to give us this opportunity and this platform to actually interact and engage with you, especially here at Teacher Talk. So,
That's right. Well said, Dr.
yeah,
Claire.
what's
Thank
our
you.
episode today? It's
Oh,
really our
guys,
episode.
we have a very, very interesting episode for today.
Yes, and
And
it's
in fact,
entitled
yes,
Pinoy sa Bahay, Phil
Phil
sa
sa
labas.
labas.
So
Okay.
really, this is very important, especially to our teachers, because last week we talked about emergent bilinguals. Now, part of
Mhm.
that also is really, that cultural integration, really with some of our students, that they come from a household who's not, who are transplants here or who have parents that are immigrants. So we want to hear the voices of these youth, right? Whose
That's right.
parents are immigrants. They may be first generation immigrants here in the United States and how they're actually navigating it. We're seeing it from the lens of Filipino, but not all of our, we have a very diverse population here in Houston. But this time, because we are also a Filipino broadcast, so we want to focus on that Filipino aspect of being an immigrant here in the US and how are these young people navigating the system? So
Yeah,
Pinoy
and
sa
Dr.
bahay,
Claire,
yes,
it's really different when we hear it from their lens, and you
yes,
guys will learn it from them right from there, and then
yes.
we are going to introduce to you close to our hearts our children and our friends' children, and you will hear it from them how they look like. How does it look like at home and then outside with regard to their culture, our Filipino culture. And in
Yes. So
fact,
let's uh-huh.
yeah, minsan tinatanong natin, ano ba itsura ng mga anak natin when they go out of our house? Now, they will learn it from, you will learn it from
Yes.
them today.
So this is uncensored, right? We
It
can't
is.
really nudge them and say, this is what you need to say, right? No. All right. So let's get this ball rolling and we will start with introducing our first guest. Our first guest is Louise Zenoria. She is 22 years old, a graduate of the University of Houston with a degree in nutrition. She is born in Cebu, Philippines, was born in Cebu, Philippines, and raised in Houston. She is currently pursuing her doctorate in occupational therapy at Texas Women's University. The daughter of Mr. Redmond and Mrs. Lourdes Zenoria, let's all welcome Louise Zenoria. Good morning,
Morning.
Good
Louise.
morning.
Yes.
How are
Let's
you,
go.
Louise?
Hello.
All right, there she is. You see her already? Yeah, she's
Yes.
with us. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and introduce our second guest. So our second guest, she is Bayang Lualhati Flores, is a first generation Filipino immigrant based in Austin, Texas. Came to the United States when she was 8 years old and enrolled at Harvard Elementary School and then went to Lanier Middle and then the Carnegie Vanguard High School. Then she graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas with a Bachelor of Arts in Arts and Technology. And she is currently working as a data imagery editor on Apple Maps. the daughter of Father Nestor and Miss Cora Flores. Let's all welcome Bayang Luwalhati Flores. Welcome, Bayang. All right. We
Welcome.
only have four guests, so let's go ahead, keep the ball rolling, and introduce our
Okay,
next guest.
our third guest for today is Chant Resilia, 22 years old and studying at Sam Houston State University. He is graduating in spring 2025 with a degree in biomedical science and plans to pursue medical school. He was born in Detroit, Michigan, and grew up in both San Francisco and Houston. He served as an AAU basketball coach and boys basketball coach at St. Anne's Catholic School, Tomball, Texas. He is a proud son of our very own Glenn Resilia and Dr. Resilia. Let's all welcome Chant.
Yay! Welcome right here.
Good
Hello,
morning, Chant.
hello, good
How are you?
morning. I'm good. How are you all?
Great, great. Thank you. And our second guest for today, his name is Alberto. We call him Al Tubo, 23 years old, grew up playing sports such as basketball, and he wrestled for all boys in high school. He is based in San Francisco, California, and he worked hard, lots of weight. Usually, he focuses in his body development. Okay. While he was in high school, he picked up a toy called Kandama, okay, that impacted his life. He is so good in playing Kandama. Some of his interests are art, food, reading, fashion, and traveling. Currently, he is going to college studying biology at California Community College. Let's all welcome the proud son and only son of my sister, Alberto Tubo. Welcome all.
Yay! Welcome,
Good.
Al. There you go. Welcome to all our guests. You know what? It is always very challenging to have youngsters come, and speak up because I know it takes a lot of their energy. So thank you so much
That's
for gracing
right.
us with
That's
your
right.
presence. Of course, let's do our morning toast, mga ka-audience natin and all our guests. Let's have that mabuhay cheers. Welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Pampainit naman, right? All right. Such a wonderful time for us to be discussing this. So let's go ahead and, ask them our very, very first question, right? And I know probably at some point we will cut para mabitin naman yung mga audience natin.
Right.
But we will first ask our very first question to them, right? Tell us about your experience growing up in a Filipino household in America. How different is it from your peers whose parents are not first immigrants or are not, immigrants? Let's just talk about being first immigrants here in this country. So very, very different. Yeah. So let's go ahead and ask that question to our first guest. I'm going to ask Luis to give us, a little peek of that answer to that. So tell us, Luis, how is it like growing up in a Filipino household?
Growing up, I was surrounded predominantly by a white population. And so it was really different, especially whenever they visited our house. I guess one thing I can think of was whenever they come to the house, it's typical to take off your shoes entering the Filipino household. And so it's kind of hard explaining to them. I was like, oh, like just take off your shoes. It's just like a Filipino thing. And so I guess like visiting their houses too, I would just take off my shoes automatically. And they'd be like, oh, you don't have to do that. But it was just like second nature to me because that's just what we do, that
Mhm.
household. And I think it's also just like the cultural differences, like you say hi to the parents and you talk to them and you get to know them. You typically like bring like a gift to the house or show your thanks. I guess for my other friends, it wasn't really typical for them to do that as well. So I think that was one of the biggest difference I saw growing up in a Filipino household here in America.
Oh,
Thank
okay. Thank
you.
you. That shoes. I think it resonated with some of the households that we have, right?
That's
You,
true.
and more than taking off, I think it culturally it has a background of the respect that you have for that house, right? Not bringing
That's
in the
true.
dirt. And again,
Mm-hmm.
we were just explaining the why behind it, but for some culture, if it does not, it's not a practice. So thank you for sharing. Let's ask Bayang. What about you, Bayang? How is it like growing in a Filipino household? I think we're
Yeah,
losing.
you don't have, okay.
I think we're losing audio. Okay, let me go ahead and first throw that question first to Al. Al, let's talk about your experience growing up in a Filipino household.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things were said earlier, kind of what I'm thinking about. Like,
Mhm.
um, definitely, there's like a difference in like respect and going to someone's house and taking off the shoes, not knowing whether or not to do that.
Mhm.
Also, what comes to mind is like eating certain foods. Like I
Mm.
remember um, when I was a kid in the cafeteria, kind of being like judged about like what I was eating, and then
Mm.
um, kind of explain with gas like my foods, like my culture. But I also grew up in a pretty diverse area. Like I grew up
Mhm.
around a lot of Asians and a lot of mixed race cultures. So
Mhm.
we kind of like all it was kind of like a mixed pot. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Oh, I really love what you talked about, the food and then the experience in the cafeteria, right? Because we are, our
Mm-hmm.
show is about teacher talk. And sometimes, just being very cognizant of that, right? That we do have some children, right, in school wherein even, the food that they bring is very different. And so for all our teachers, just being cognizant of that and then having those conversations even in the classroom, right, when you have those community building
Mm-hmm.
time to talk about that we are, we there is that diversity in our population, and so the idea of being able to respect that and being able to acknowledge and honor that. Thank you, Al. That's that's really a good piece to talk about. Now we're going to be asking Bayang and Chant about that same question when we come back. We're going to pause for a quick break.
Beyond Health and Wellness, Dr. Rich and Nurse MJ.
Join us as we explore the journey to holistic well-being.
Uncover insights that inspire a healthier, happier life.
Join the pilot episode of Beyond Health and Wellness on September 27th, Friday 8 p.m. Central, Saturday, 9 a.m. Philippines. Don't miss out.
All right, here we go. We're back. So let's throw that question to Bayang. What about you, Bayang? What's your experience?
It, yeah, is my audio working this time?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So I think one of the big things that I noticed amongst children my age whenever I was growing up, I think respect is a very big thing. I saw a lot of kids here in America kind of referring to adults directly by their first name, which was so felt so wrong deeply for me. And I distinctly remember this one instance growing up where I was teaching a friend of mine to do the mano, like mano po, to my parents. And I was telling them, this is a sign of respect. This is what you do to your elders. And they were like, why would I show them respect? I don't even know them. And I think that was a huge culture shock for me. I just did not understand that that's how other people kind of approached it. So I found myself kind of gravitating away from that just because it felt so opposite to what I was totally used to. But there is a really big difference in how we as Filipinos kind of treat our elders as opposed to people who may not necessarily have that kind of strong familial culture, I suppose.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yes. I think, it resonated with, calling someone by first name, right? And it takes a lot of effort, and you were right. Like even for us professionals, right? When I first came here, and how do you really address your boss, right? You have to say sir, ma'am, or we still say sir, ma'am, but like Mr. We have to put that, and it's like, no, you can call me by my first name. So all the more for the youth, right? Because it's an expectation culturally, and then now you shift into
Yes.
that and just call your friend's dad Tom or whatever, right?
And
Just
also Dr. Claire, but everybody that comes to your house is your tita or tito.
oh
And then the kids would ask, I don't know them, but to show respect, we taught our kids how to be respectful. And that is how most of them they picked it up.
yes. What about Chan? Tell us, Chan, what was it like growing up in a Filipino household?
Well, in my experience growing up in a Filipino household, I would say it was a little bit more strict than other households. I will say that. But in a good way. I think it was strict because it was very family oriented and they always wanted us to be together and stay together no matter what, whenever we were going throughout anything in our lives. I think a big thing that I noticed growing up is that a lot of my friends, it felt like every weekend they would always be like, "Oh, I'm going out to this place," or "Oh, I'm going out to that place." And I would always have to they'd always ask me, "Oh, could you go? Could you go?" And I would always have to answer with, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm hanging out with family. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to church with my family." And I think that's one of the big things that I saw growing up. It's very family oriented in these households, and it's all about taking care of each other. I think
Got it.
That's great.
I
Good
know, but
job.
hearing that from him right now, I can just feel, it was hard. I believe, and as parents, we don't hear it. Now I'm looking at it from a third person perspective. It was probably hard, to just say, sorry, I can't. So, thank you for that sharing. All right. So, what's
That's
our next question that we would like to ask these youngsters?
that's a good sharing, and hearing it from Chan really it makes your mom really proud. It tells us who the family is, right? And for our second questions that I can't see right now, okay,
Let me go. You want me to
go
go ahead
ahead,
and
Claire.
jump in? Okay. So
Okay.
our other question that we have, we were talking about growing up. Now, with growing up comes that value, and you kind of talked about it already, but I still want to ask this. Tell us one Filipino value your parents taught you that you found most important in life, and why? Why do you find it valuable? Let me start with Louise.
I think one value that my parents really taught me was to have grit and to work hard, especially seeing them because we came to America whenever I was like under a year old and hearing them talk about how hard they worked to get to where they are today. And so I always carried that like mentality that I have to work hard, I have to have that grit to succeed because, they came here for the American dream and they achieved it. And so I feel like in the Filipino household too, you always have to work hard just so you know that you're putting in the best effort because they want to see you be at your best, so you have to put in the best. And so that's one value that really resonated with me growing up. And I think that's also the reason why I'm so successful today is because my parents instilled that hard work and that grit in me.
Thank you, Louise. And look
Wow.
at you now pursuing that doctorate in occupational therapy, right? That takes a lot of grit. And you are currently working too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you are working and then still doing that studying. Great job. What about let me ask Al, what about you, Al? What value resonated with you the most?
Yeah, I think I would say connection. Um, Growing up, I played baseball, and sometimes we would have these um, like these little snack times, and my mom would like go overboard and do like these huge like buffet things. And I remember a lot of the times, a lot of the kids would um, it would be awesome. And I think what I learned through that was like just the value of connection through food or through family too. I think a large emphasis on family connection, the family unit. Um, I remember like when I was growing up, a lot of the times my mom would like FaceTime family and like kind of put me on the phone and nudge me to talk to them, even though I didn't really like know. Maybe I didn't know someone that well. Kind of like go through an awkward phone call, but like it was in good spirits, right? So
Wow.
um, yeah, I think that's what I got from that.
Okay.
Wow.
And yes, I just want to ask because Al, you were talking about, that connection. Has it,
Yeah.
in a way, where was that, resonated with you? Are you utilizing that now, in your adult life? Did you
Yeah.
just find yourself like utilizing it? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I would say like in terms of like friendships, I think just being just being open to like just trying to connect like to more people that way through and through my culture.
Mhm.
Um and just like an emphasis on like I think more empathy too. A lot of
Mhm.
like values of empathy as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Al. Let's ask.
Wow.
Yes,
What about you, Bayang? Is there anything
Actually,
that
I
I
was actually
taught
going
you?
to say. Oh, I was actually going to say something very similar. Just the concept of like helping out your kapwa tao, um, forming really strong bonds with the people around you in your community. Not necessarily because of any kind of like obligation, but just because it's the right thing to do. Um, I think that that's a very strong thing to have, especially in a world post COVID, where we were all so isolated for so long. We really felt that loneliness of just being stuck by yourself in your home or wherever people may have been quarantined. So being able to like kind of fall back on your community, growing those connections, those roots, especially through food and culture, as Alberto mentioned, I think is very important, and it's definitely something that I use every day, that I take part in every day, and that I try to build in my adult life.
thank you for that,
Thank
Bayan. What
you.
about you, Chan? What Filipino value?
I would say the value, just to I guess kind of piggyback off of what Luis said, it is that idea that you do have to work hard. Your parents, I think one big thing that stuck with me growing up was the idea that my parents gave their all to be here in this country. So I had to put in the work and effort to achieve the dreams that I have for myself because I was blessed with an opportunity to be here. So I really feel that that was one of the big parts of my youth was my parents constantly teaching me that hey, if you want to do something in your life, you have to work hard for it. You have to chase after it. You can't just sit idly by and then let your dreams slip. You have to be willing to give your all and do the things you can to make them become true.
Okay. I know, and I think part of that, I want to take us back into the ideas that these, youngsters gave to us. The idea of grit, the idea of, working hard and doing, what's best, education wise, right? Because
Mhm.
that comes with that achievement, and then also having that camaraderie, right? Having that, as what Bayang described, right? Having that pakikisama. So these are, Filipino values. And then we talk about what research and what literature tells us, right? The success of Asian kids, right, in school, the success of Asian kids, academically. And then you go back to, oh, now it kind of makes sense. You're able to infer that that success also comes from the cultural background of, when we came here, we didn't have anything, we're building. And so
Mhm.
you got to make sure that you become better than the generation before you, and so comes that academic skill to really excel. So it's a good thing to be able to hear that from our youngsters.
Yes.
Yeah, the question that I have, as you talk about pakikisama, is there a difference in the way you do pakikisama? I know, with probably your Asian friends, it's more or less the same. But have you noticed a difference in how you do that pakikisama compared to, probably a non-Asian or non-Filipino household? If anyone, can talk about that aspect. I'm just curious about it. Anyone would like to take that? Bayan? Do-
Uh, sure. Yeah, I can speak on it a little bit. I think having friends that don't really have the same kind of cultural background, particularly us Filipinos, since a lot of us have immigrated to other countries, I think there's this kind of understanding whenever you're with another person like that, like this understanding of where your family's at, probably some kind of idea of how you were raised and the type of kind of values instilled on you. Whenever I'm interacting with people from not that background, my pakikisama with them is a lot more, I don't want to say surface level, but it's different. It's definitely different the way that that kind of relationship is formed, just because of that mutual understanding or a lack of. Um, I don't want to say deeper, because I have formed quite deep relationships with people who don't necessarily have my cultural background, but you can definitely feel the difference whenever someone just knows, because their family went through that same struggle. Their, cousins, their aunts, uncles, grandparents, whatever, always watching TFC, stuff like that. It's just stuff that people who are outside of this experience can't really relate to. So there's just this kind of like camaraderie that comes with that, I feel.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Now that you said that, I want to ask you, Al, do you find yourself in a situation where your Filipino culture conflicts with the American culture? And then what situation, could you give an example where you have felt this one? And how do you navigate about it?
What comes to mind, I think, is I think um, the process of like moving out. I think
Yes.
um, I think as Filipinos, there's a strong emphasis on like the family unit and taking care of one another.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, um, I was always taught, or like subconsciously taught, like I would have to take care of my parents, or like, you know, um, or it was something that I would think about. And I think as I'm getting older, there's definitely some tension between like what the American idea of moving out is versus like the Filipino family unit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm still navigating that. I know there's a lot of like pressure to move out, and like depending on where you live and like on all that, it's different case by case, right? So, um, but for me, I would say like yeah, there's definitely some like friction in that mentality, but um, I think going forward, um, you could probably take a little bit from the Filipino culture and kind of make it your own, kind of make something new out of it. Um, but yeah, that's what I think.
I know that one of our guests, because she was talking about, her working, and and in about a few minutes, she has to really clock in. So we really want to thank you, Louise, for this time you have with us. So why don't we throw that question to you, if you are, if you're ready to answer that, talk to us, what were some of the struggles that you kind of find, find yourself in situations where the Filipino culture is in conflict with American culture, and how did you navigate that?
Kind of similar to the previous answer, we are so family oriented that my friends would often ask to hang out or do things, like for example, like they'd want to hang out on Sunday, but I'd have to explain to them, oh, I have to go to church with my parents on Sunday. Usually Sunday is a time that I spend with my family. Or especially like in high school, whenever my friends were going out a lot, my parents would always be like, we have something going on, we'd rather have you spend that time with us. And so of course, they have the best intentions, but whenever I was growing up and seeing my friends not really spending as much time with their family versus how I was kind of conflicted, why do I have to spend so much time with them? But at the end of the day, I know it's just because that's our culture. We love being surrounded by family. And especially since we don't have that much family here in America, it's really just us and, a couple other aunts. So I guess that's why they really instilled that, family is important and you should spend as much time as you can with them while you still have them. And so that's something that really got me thinking, especially in high school, seeing just my other friends, going out and about, but I'm over here with my family. At the end of the day, I love being with my family, but that's something that I did struggle with growing up.
Thank you so much, Louise.
Thank you, Louise.
And Al, for that answering that question. We are now at this specific moment in our program when we have to pause for a short break. And when we come back, we will read some comments from our viewers. We'll be right back.
All right, we're back.
Yes.
We're, I
And
think we're ready to read our comments.
yes, we have some shout outs. It says here, glad to hear and see you in your Nanay and Dr. Claire's podcast. Thank you.
We have also coming from Manang Ming Teves. Alberto, so happy to see you. Sending my hugs to you and your mom from Houston to San Francisco.
Oh, yay. Thank you, thank you. And we have another comment here that says, good morning. And it says here, um, good morning. Happy to see everyone. Yay, Kuya Chantoy. I know. I want to know who's the Facebook. And it says, good morning. Hi to Kuya Chant and Ate Louise. Thank you so much. All right. So let's throw that same question to Bayang this time. Tell us, Bayang, was there a specific situation when you were in conflict with Filipino values and how the American way of, life goes? Okay. We have another technical difficulty again. Okay. She's gonna
Okay,
uh,
so we're gonna fix that.
And while we are actually waiting for that, I know that we had a video. Oh, Bayang's back. Right. Let's go
Okay.
ahead.
Yes.
Bayang.
Is it working this time?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why it keeps randomly stopping. But as I was saying earlier, I think that Alberto brings up, or Al brings up a really good point in regards to the moving out situation. That was also something that I had to struggle with, mostly because I went to a college in a different city than whenever we were first just growing up. So I feel like that problem sort of solved itself because I had to go to college there. But I understand that, living at home with a lot, or with your parents and your family is kind of a standard and a norm for us. I think that it was important to me to find people, for example, my partner in life, to be respectful of that, right? To be understanding of the fact that I am one unit with my family. You can't really pick or choose just like me or just my mom or, whatever. We all are together. That was something that I had to come to grasp with growing up. And I think it's just mostly because the culture here is so individual, right? Everyone, like in America, everyone wants to kind of like, make themselves stand out, make themselves different. It's very individualistic, which has its benefits for sure. But so does being in a family unit. And I think it's very important to be able to support the people who, sacrificed basically everything. I think having that chip on your shoulder is part of our experience as Filipino American immigrants is knowing that, your family, your parents put through like themselves through all of this work, all of this labor to be able to raise us up. Um, and I keep that very near and dear to my heart every day. So that was definitely something that I had to struggle with. And yeah, just like finding people who are like respectful of me and my culture and how I was brought up, I suppose.
Thank you. I really like, now you're giving us a bigger picture when you talked about, I think, sometimes there is that tendency to be individualistic here, because yes, this is a land of a lot of immigrants and everybody, it's just like a rat race, right? Everybody has to, really up, right? And so there's that certain culture of being individualistic. And now you come from a culture wherein you find that support, right? And sometimes you're caught in the middle, especially as you're navigating work, right? This time when you feel like, okay, we gotta be, let's work as a team, let's do this. But then you got to see, other people are like, no, I'm doing this on my own because I want to up you. So that really is in conflict, right, with the values that you have, and really poses, like sort of a nudge there in the heart, because this is not how I was brought up. But I love also that, as you're finding yourself and finding your voice, being able to say, no, I have to be able to find people, right, that understands this is yes, although the American society tells me this, but part of me, and that's why I still am, right? I'm Filipino American because part of my identity is also that culture. So thank you so much, Bayang. You're just giving us an amazing insight, of
No.
all this, right? Putting it together, the conflict about, identity, self, that individualistic compared to how we were brought up to be community building society. I just want to say hello to, because when we read the comments, we just said Facebook user we could not really look at. So I went ahead. I just want to give a shout out to Mama Neng Teves, who first gave that comment to Bayang and Alberto. Say hi to Zulwaga, for giving that comment to Chant, and Emily Lee Edmilau for that comment to Chant and Louise. Thank you again. Of course, we want to acknowledge our viewers. All right.
Thank you
So,
so much.
yeah. Chant, do you have anything to add to that?
I think everyone's kind of covered the basis mostly of how I feel about it. I feel that Filipino culture doesn't have too many conflicts, at least how I grew up. It wasn't the biggest conflict between Filipino American culture. You didn't see a lot of the times. I would tell friends like, "Oh, I'm going to church on Sunday." They'd be like, "Oh, I'm also going to church on Sunday." So I think they were pretty, at least where I grew up, it was pretty family oriented as well. But you do also have to realize, like, I think going back to what we were talking about earlier, it is you can see a big difference in the way that we show respect to people versus the American culture. I think growing up, I was always greeting the parents anytime I was walking into a household, always getting to know the family and always trying to connect with them. And a lot of times, whenever I had friends over, they would just uh, give a little hand wave and walk over to hang out with me. So I think that was probably the thing that resonated with me most.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so now let's get to, we talked about, we actually have a video, Cora, right? Of, can you talk to us who the person that we've actually invited? She's unable to be here, but I think she wants to share about the Filipino values, right? So,
Yes,
yes,
I want
I
to
want to
introduce.
introduce.
I want to introduce her first. She cannot come in because she's being deployed to the Middle East. Her name is Ian Galliardo, originally from Metro Manila. She came to the United States in 2009. The age of 19, she joined the United States Air Force, in which she was deployed and worked in a total of 12 countries. Ian made it to the Air Force in her career, filled by the first female to make the rank to technical surgeon in 5 years. I am very, very proud of her. So let us listen to her and see what we could learn about her.
The most important Filipino value that my mother has taught me is how to remain resilient at all times. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't understand the importance behind bouncing back from our mistakes, what we've learned from it, remaining open, and expressing gratitude from the opportunity we just experienced. In the military, I've hit rock bottom several times, and when I do talk to my mother about it, she tells me, well, reflect on it, sleep on it, because tomorrow is just going to be harder than what you experienced yesterday. And it's all about seeking support, because if we just keep it all internally, nobody's going to know that we're struggling. And my mother has always pushed me to be the better person that I am yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Wow, I love that. It's circling back. It's the same message. And so, if we're actually looking at writing commonalities, a dissertation, right?
That's
And
true.
my data brain, she was talking about resilience, and Luis a while ago was talking about that grit, right? Those two come,
Mhm.
together, and then seeking the support. That's exactly, what Bayang was telling us and resonated, with the rest of our guests, Al and Chant shared, that community building piece, right? That is really
Mhm.
what was very, very important. All right. So our next question to our guest is this,
It's
right?
about school life.
Yes, this is now about school life. So talk to us, describe your school life, especially college life. Did you receive guidance from your parents on how to navigate it? So let me first throw that question to Chant, and then I'll throw it to both Al and Bayang, with their experience. So Chant, tell me about it.
School life, especially college life, it was is actually a really interesting time for me. I think it was the first time in my young life that I really got to experience the most freedom that I've had. Being able to kind of control when I go to school, what I do in school, and what I'm going through. But I still did have my guidance from my mom, of course. A lot of times I would try to go out, enjoy college life, hang out at parties. She says, "No, you have class in the morning. You have to go home. You have to study." And I was always saying, "Okay, mom, I will," and I always did. So, I do feel that my parents were very integral to me and where I'm at now in my life in college, and they really guided me to kind of focus on it. I know that you have a lot of freedom, but you have to focus on what's really important, what you want to do with your life. So I think they really pushed me in that direction.
But the one thing is that I want to say you did the enrolling and all that by yourself. I have to admit, I'm an educator, okay? And I think this is really something that all Filipino parents is okay to admit, right? I'm an educator myself, but that process of applying college and all that, I did not help you in any way how to do it, right? And again, so how did you navigate that? Because I know I just did not, and I just trusted that you'll be able to figure it out.
I was lucky enough to have really good friends throughout high school, and just was told a lot of different things by counselors and different people within the school system. So them giving us an idea of what we needed to do for or to continue our education into college, it really helped me out. Trying to sign up for those things, especially because you guys, didn't really have much experience here in
Yes,
America, so I kind of had to figure it all out on my own. But yeah, they helped me out quite a bit.
Let's talk to
Chan, now that I heard you about that, it's kind of ironic because in school, I guide my students how to apply. And then we try to navigate that on the first steps or second step until they get enrolled. And the thing is, with Bayang, I have, like you, Dr. Claire, I have nothing to do with it. She did it on her. I was surprised that she was already going to UT. Oh, let's hear it from her. Maybe
yes,
she got a better idea of
share your
saying.
story. Bayang, tell us your
Oh, mine.
story. So
Sorry.
how did you navigate it?
Actually, yeah, Chan, what you said is 100% on the dot. Whenever I was in high school and like middle school growing up, grade school, it was very structured, right? Like you had a very strict schedule. It was very much like you do this, then this, rinse and repeat every day. But then come college, it's all this freedom. It was the first time that I felt like I had been able to come into my own as a person, because my parents weren't kind of like dictating my every move at that point. And yeah, come everything regards to like applying for colleges, researching colleges, looking up scholarships, looking up FAFSA. I filled out the FAFSA by myself every single year. And I'm not quite sure, well, I'm sure actually that it's because there has to be like a different system back home in the Philippines. So I know that my mom or my dad, neither of them really were able to help me throughout any of this process, but I also don't really blame them just because I know that it's something that they never really had to experience here themselves. And the systems and the processes that are in place in the Philippines, I'm sure are just like different to what they have here. Um, but yeah, no, grade school was super structured. I was like super on top of everything. And come college, I had to dictate myself, create my own schedule, and decide what I wanted to do and when I wanted to do, particularly because I was like in a different city than my parents were, so there was that level of like separation. Yeah, it was hard. I think I took for granted a little bit the structure that I had in grade school, put in by my parents, and having that kind of like familial connection to like fall back on. But I also don't regret it, just because I feel like because of that freedom, I was able to understand myself, understand my identity, learn more about like the people around me, learn what I valued most in regards to my culture, not what my parents valued most. Because of course they have things that they want to pass on to me, but then, and I'll take that, of course. But then I found out like which ones of those really affected me more personally, and which ones of those values I wanted to kind of carry on myself.
Wow, well said, Bayan. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Well
Bayan.
said. What about Al? Talk to us about, your pathway, how navigating college life.
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of similar points being said, right? Like I think in middle school to high school was very like strict. I was being pushed, um, like very like on the dot, very structured. And then I think once I hit college, it was very like, I guess not lenient, but um, I was sort of like I experienced more freedom, and with that freedom came just the ability to kind of explore myself more and take what I learned from my culture, Filipino culture, um, and kind of figure it out. And I think I'm grateful for that. I think I learned like I think growing up and surrounding myself with like my family and the Filipino culture, it kind of it shaped the way kind of who I am, right? So, um, but yeah.
Good.
Thank
I
you,
think
Al.
one of the things that we can put two and two together, and if there's really something that our parents out there who are listening, right, can actually learn from, is that just balance, right? Having that balance. We are, on our end, Cora and myself are self-reflecting right now because we're really hearing it, the truth of the matter from our students as I'm reflecting on it, is that the ability to be able to also give our children, right, that opportunity to find themselves. Yes, it's good that we're advocating for our Filipino values and all that, but at some point they also have to find, just like what Bayang said, right, find their own identity. And so, learning from us, right, because we don't have all the answers in the world, we don't know it all. Also trusting our kids that they can navigate it on their own. Yes, you've heard it, Mom Cora and I never guided our children in the college how to, because we don't know what we don't know. Yes,
Yes.
I was in the school system, but I was not, in high school. So I don't have the counseling, degree to be able to navigate that. So I trusted my children to be able to do that. And so I think for our parents, understanding that our children has the capacity to make that, right? Honor that, and also already knowing that we've already invested the right values to them, but at some point we got to let them go and then be able to navigate it on their own, right?
Right.
It's okay, they'll be able to manage. Which brings us actually to our next question, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Mhm.
So our next question, guys, is let's talk about your career. Okay. Now, how did you end up with your career? How did you end up with your choices now? Did you uh, think about it on your own? Was there an influence from your parents? Would you like to start, Maya?
I think this is actually a scenario in which my case is a little bit less stereotypical. I know the stereotypical thing is for Filipinos to, go be nurses or go be teachers or, whatever stereotype here. I think I was gracious and like lucky enough to have my parents allow me to be able to choose my own path, my own career. I was lucky enough that they had that kind of, or they allowed me that kind of freedom by working hard and, being stable enough that I can choose my own way. I chose to study arts and technology at the University of Texas at Dallas. My focus was actually in 3D animation, but I can branch into most media that's 3D and digital. Currently, I'm working as a contractor for Apple Maps, essentially, helping the team develop the Apple Maps that you guys use on your phone every day, which is amazing. I love being in production roles. I love being in the tech industry, even if not tech adjacent. Um, I don't know. I just think I was really lucky that they allowed me to kind of follow my heart and kind of go where I wanted to go, because I know that that's not something that's very privileged, right? That's not something that everybody can really afford. And it's not like we're, the wealthiest person in the world. We're not like crazy stinking rich or anything, but they allowed me to do that and to be able to find my own happiness, which I personally think is more important than any kind of monetary value. I think the benefit that I get from being happy every day, waking up every day, and, feeling like blessed to just be in the life that I am, I think is the fruit of my parents' labor for, coming over here to the United States, sacrificing everything that they did, slogging away that they like the way that they did. I think my being happy every day is the fruit of that. And I think that I'm very lucky to have experienced that. So
wow. Thank you. That's beautiful. What
Did
about
you hear that, Claire? I am
Yes.
so elated by her response.
I know that just spoke, of the household that she grew up in. So
Yes.
congratulations to you and Father Nelson for that stability and for that opportunity. What about Al?
Yeah, so in my case, I'm currently studying biology at a San Mateo Community College. So I guess I'm still trying to figure things out, but kind of piggybacking into what Young said, I'm allowed to like kind of explore and do my own thing, and I think because of that, I'm allowed to just explore and allowed to, I'm not really restricted in any case. So I'm just grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Al. What about you, Champ?
I would say my experience was a little bit different from everyone's, because I feel that I did probably go through the typical stereotypical Filipino still am growing up.
It's more stable though. It's more stable.
Yeah, very, very stable, very structured. My parents were always pushing me to, go to something. But I think where I'm at now, I'm about to graduate and with a degree in biomedical sciences. So I'm planning on pursuing the medical field. And I think that all came to fruition because not just of my parents, but also because of just who I am as a person. I think growing up, I was very science oriented. I love the sciences, and it's probably one of my favorite subjects throughout all of elementary, middle school, and high school. And then by the time I got into college, I think that was really where I was at. I was like, I just want to do something that's science related. And then it ended up, my father is a nurse, so I did have kind of the affinity of like, okay, so I guess the medical field is somewhere I could go. And but I will say, I do agree that as much as it is kind of stereotypical, my parents did give me a little bit of leeway. And even in the case that medical school may not work out for me, they did say that they believe full and wholeheartedly in whatever I choose to do. And I think that's like you all said so far, it's a blessing to have that from our parents. Like, they worked so hard for us to get here and for us to make it to this country. And now that we're given the opportunity, we can really choose where we want to go. So, I mean, my heart is set on going into med school, but if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I'm focused on trying to find my way to any field that really would suit me.
Wow, very well said.
Yes.
Look at you, Dr. Claire. Look at that.
Of course, and again, this is what we are seeing here is just a glimpse of a Filipino household. So in a way, a representation also of what are the things the Filipino household really represents. Some glimpse. We are now in the very last stretch of our program. We will pause for a little break and we will come back. We actually have a question that was brought up by one of our audience, and we would like our guest to be able to answer that. So we'll have a short break.
We'll
In a world filled with fleeting moments, there's beauty waiting to be captured. My name is Christian, and I specialize in immortalizing your most precious memories, from elegant weddings to vibrant events and timeless portraits. I'm here to make every moment unforgettable. Let me tell your story through the lens. Contact me today and let's create magic together.
In a world cluttered with information, where truth is power, Lawin Weekly News stands apart.
We delve deeper, uncover facts, and bring stories to light. From political showdowns and economic triumphs to the pulse of the street and the heart of the community.
We capture the moments that define us, stories that challenge, inspire, and transform.
Tune in live Sundays 8 a.m. Central Standard Time and Sundays 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
All right,
Okay,
and
we're back.
Now back. Let's have some greetings. We have from the following people. We have Miss Tyne Baroga, who has said good morning. Right there. And we have another one from Miss Princess Georgine Baroga, who also greeted good morning with that super firework or that celebration.
We have from Neil, Divina Gracia. Hello, Chantoy. We got a fan.
Yes.
And also we have from Mildred Molito. Good morning, everyone. Watching on the road to Houston. Congratulations to our Phil-Am students. Continue to honor your heritage while you create your own path. That's right. Thank you. Be safe.
And this one from Marlu Colina. Good morning to the very dedicated educators. Thank you, Marlu. All right. We have another one from attorney Eileen got these on. Hi, Teacher Cora and Dr. Clare. This discussion is both engaging and beneficial to our Phil-Am youth and their parents. Thank you so much, attorney, for that. And we actually had one question. I was wondering if we can flash that question right here. So from Brian Wong. Cora, would you like to do the honors of reading that?
Are there any common misconceptions about Filipino Americans that you'd like to address? What do you think, guys? Common misconception about Filipino Americans.
Anybody?
Bayang, you want to start?
Sure. This seems really silly, I think, but I think that a common misconception about Filipino Americans is that we are either Filipino or American. I think that it's important to remember that, especially as children of like first generation immigrants or first generation immigrants ourselves, we're going to end up being both. And I think that that's just something that's unavoidable considering the environment and the culture that we are raised in. It's quite literally the topic of this entire episode, right? It's Filipino at home and then not so much outside, because we as the children of these immigrants have to kind of learn how to balance both of these. And I think it's really easy to forget that we have to be both. And it's not that we can just choose to be full Filipino forever or full American forever, because both of these cultures are equally as important and equally as influential to our upbringing. And it's kind of impossible to filter out one or the other. Just because of like our environment. So everybody mentioned, your friends want to hang out on the weekends, but you have church on Sunday with your family or parents or something. I think that that's important, and I think that that's just, I don't know, it's just something that we have to balance. And I feel like it's really easy to dismiss that. I feel like it's really easy to be like, oh, you're so American now. Oh, you're so like Americano ka na ngayon, blah blah blah. Like But it's not that. It's both. I have to be both. That's how I adapt to this environment. That's how I have to be able to like kind of survive out here. And that doesn't mean that I love my Filipino heritage any less. It doesn't mean that I value it any less. This is just how it is for me. And maybe that's not so much the case for our parents, because our parents, grew up there. They in the Philippines. They became fully formed adults with their thoughts, their opinions, their processes fully embedded within Filipino culture, and they moved here, or at least in my case, I know some people move here at different ages, but at least in my case, my parents were full adults and kind of knew their identity already as Filipinos before they came to the United States. So I feel like their struggle is a little bit harder to adapt because they already have a mold that they kind of had before they even came here. But for us kids who, are raised with the Filipino mold, but have to fit into this American world, I think it's important to just not forget that both are important. And just because I'm a little bit more Americanized doesn't mean that I value my Filipino any less. Like, super fluent pa rin ako sa Tagalog. Like, marunong ako mag-Tagalog. Alam kong maraming mga like film na hindi na masyado, which is hard, right? That's something that's really difficult and hard because you lose that kind of connection. And a lot of I think parents do it so that their children have an easier time assimilating, which is, that they're doing it for the benefit of their child, which is so admirable. But yeah, I just think it's important to remember that we are both. Hindi lang ako Pilipino, hindi lang ako Amerikano, both ako. So, that doesn't mean na hindi ko mahal ang Filipino side ko. That doesn't mean na hindi importante sa akin yun. Importante siya. Pero so is my American side kasi dito na ako lumaki, So.
I love it. Actually, Mildred just, gave a shout and then said, "Well said, Bayang. Well said."
Salamat
Yes.
po.
And so, as we're really, thinking about this program, right? Filipino sa bahay, Fil-am sa labas. The misconception now has to be Fil-am sa bahay, Fil-am sa labas. And then the question is that how willing are we now, right, as parents and as a Filipino community, older community, to be able to accept the fact that our children, no matter how hard we try, to follow the path that we, have carved for them, because as what we said, we only know what we know. And Bayam said it well, our life paths were very different because our maturity came in a society where we are in the Philippines. But let us also remember that these kids, yes, comes from a Filipino heritage, but they are growing up in a society, where it is an American society. So they have to be able to put in those together. So thank you for that, Bayang.
Thank
Really an
you.
empowering and eye-opening statement for us. What about Al? Anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, what comes to mind, I think, is this idea, or what I've experienced is like that people might think Filipinos might be docile or like passive. I think that, well, in my experience, because I've been like kind to people or because I've been patient, people might have like taken advantage of that. But I think being Filipino, I was like taught like to be patient with people, like to show empathy, right? I'm like, I think these things are like it's not. I think people show strength in different ways, right? And I think especially growing up like in an Asian community, or I guess I could speak to Asians as too. I don't want to make too broad of a statement, but that was kind of my experience. I think the message is like people show strength in different ways, and yeah, I think it's not necessarily like one or the other.
Yeah. Great. I love that. I love that, right? It does not mean like, sometimes that docile that you were talking about, right? That and sometimes equates to timidity, right? It's not necessarily that, right? I just have my strength, but it's also just showing that my strength is that grace that I give people. And again, looking at sometimes the American society, right, where we are in that rat race, grace is, sometimes a very hard word to give and really do, right? So just being able to see that's a very good point. What about you, Chant? Is there anything you can add to what Bayang and Al just shared with us?
I guess to kind of go off what what Bayang said. I think one thing I've noticed a lot, at least growing up, is there's like um online you'll see a bit of a debate between like Filipinos and Phil-Ams. Like I'll see a lot of like conflict between them, and I think the one misconception I do want to clear is that, as Bayang said, we are very like we are American in a way. We are that's just our culture. That's who we are because that's where we grew up here. That's just how it is. But that doesn't diminish how we feel about ourselves as Filipinos. Like I as much as I can around anyone I can, I always like to reiterate like I'm proud about my culture, my heritage, and I think that's a lot of the time gets lost in translation a lot with people. I think a lot of the time people back from where our homeland will always be like, "Oh, you're so Americanized," just as Bayang said, like you're Americanized. You can't really. It kind of feels like they make you feel like, oh, you can't even call yourself Filipino anymore.
Mhm.
I think it's really important for people, especially Phil people, to understand like, yes, that is that is your culture and heritage, and be proud of it. But also remember, yes, you have to, you know, the American way you live is just the way you grew up, and it's important to keep that in mind and balancing between those two.
I love it. So the balance between both culture. I actually want to give the shout out. Emily Lee Edmilau said, "So proud of our Phil-Am kids." Right there, they just said it. Wow, we are now at the very end, really, of our program. We're about to close out. I think this is really, a wonderful discussion that we have. We've learned so much, from our youngsters. I think one of the things that we want to share is that and I don't know if you were following the conversation, from what Bayang also shared, from her experience, and Al shared from his experience, is that there was also that leeway that the parents gave for them to choose their path. And that is sometimes a misconception for Filipinos, that we always want them to, find that mold, get into that. Well, Chant in a way semi, because he said, he's following that path, but later on, he finally recognized that that's really my strength. So I think those are one of the misconceptions that, our viewers out there, can probably resonate with. And then for some who may not be in the Filipino American, background or household, for them to understand. Here is a final, comment given to us by one of our viewers. This is from, let me see, from Mon. Mon Zulwaga said this. This is a very good culmination to close out. She said, "This discussion is quite eye-opener for Filipino parents on how our kids struggle to retain their Filipino values and culture, and at the same time adapt the American culture at the same time. No wonder why they are confused and rebellious sometimes, because as parents, we don't experience what they go through as Phil-Ams." Thank you, guys. Glad to see you're carving your own paths out there. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Ron. Very,
That's a very good reflection of what just happened today. And the
very,
thing is, I think we have put, lay down the path of our own kids, and they were able to find their own. And at the same time, they learn how to cherish and preserve our Filipino culture as they struggle and triumphantly accept and assimilate the American culture. You see
very,
how meaty is this? My God,
yes.
you just don't know how these children work hard in order to preserve our own culture and at the same time be on their own self.
Yes.
Thank
And
you. Thank
so
you.
we're gonna bust that myth.
Uh-huh.
Myth. There's no more Filipino sa bahay, Phil-Am sa labas. There's
Yes.
only Phil-Am sa
Phil-Am.
bahay and Phil-Am sa
Phil-Am sa
labas. And
labas.
so the challenge is to be able to protect that, to honor that,
Mhm.
and to be able to navigate. Thank you so much to our
Thank
guests.
you.
Oh, that's such a wonderful insight, even, coming from our audience. Thank you again, Ms. Bayan Flores, for gracing us with your presence. Um, Alberto Tubo, for gracing us with your presence. And of course, Chant Priscilla, for, sitting and gracing us with your
Yes.
presence.
And also, Ian Gallardo, who was in our video clip
Yes.
today. Thank you, Iwan, and you try to be safe because she's now being deployed to Middle East this afternoon.
Yes, thank you so much. And with that, we capped another episode of Teacher Talk Live Chikahan with
Teacher Cora
and Dr. Claire. Till next time, thank you again for staying with us, watching this
We need,
podcast.
Claire, we need to tell them our next episode for next week.
Yes.
Guys, we have a very interesting episode next week. We want you to tune in again, and there will be more discussions that we had today. Okay.
Yes, yes. So please make sure same time at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time and 10 p.m. Philippines. We will see you again. Thank you to our podcast director, Christian Toledo, who has been amazing, and to Lawin Media for giving us this platform to be able to talk, about learn about education and our Filipino culture. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Bye.